Today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast, my guest is Cynthia de Lorenzi. Cynthia is a speaker, artist, photographer, former tech CEO, and entrepreneur. She's passionate about innovation, art, creativity, and neuroscience. Cynthia is here to share with us the story of the first time she bought a house online, sight unseen, and moved to a city she had never even visited before. So she is one brave, courageous, and adventurous woman. Welcome to the First Time Storytelling broadcast, Cynthia.
Thank you, Anne, and I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm even more thrilled that I have a chance to sit down and talk to you. It's been way too long, and I'm so excited to reconnect with you. You've been somebody who really influenced my life. I mean, you meet people who leave an impression, and you are one of those people. So anybody has a chance to get to know you, you are a truth seeker, a knowledge seeker. You are an explorer and a discoverer of self. So you're somebody who's really resonated with me in my life. So you left an indelible impression on me.
Oh, wow. That gave me chills. That means so much coming from you because of all the things that you've accomplished and the so many lives that you have touched and the ambitions and passions that you've had in life. And clearly you are far from being done experiencing and doing so many great things. So let's get into this. So like I kind of mentioned in the introduction, I met you when you lived in Washington, D.C. And it sounds like after I left, I went to New Orleans, you stuck around for a little bit, but then certain things started happening. So what happened that had you take this change, this turn in how your life was, the direction that your life was going?
Well, you got to step back just a little bit. I moved to Washington, D.C. from Dallas, Texas in 2002, following my brother's death. I moved there to step in and take over his IT company for my family. And in doing so, I anticipated, because he was young and I thought it was going to be a short-term move. I thought it was going to be there maybe a year at the most. And I moved in to my parents' home to care for them, especially my mother who's grieving the death of my brother and my siblings who were grieving his death, and to help step in and manage a lot of things that happened. It was a crisis. I mean, when you have somebody die unexpectedly who's young and a sibling, it is total chaos in a family. But I recognized I was the one in my family, my siblings who was free to do it, could do it, and stepped in to do it. And so in doing so, expecting this short term, the first 10 years we lived there, my husband and I lived in my mother's basement in one room. I have no idea in retrospect how we did it, but you do it. I mean, you do things that you get called on. So after living there for 14 years, no idea we'd be there for 14 years, both my parents passed away, my stepdad and my mother. And and I had made a commitment to my mother that I would keep the house and the family, which always be mindful. I know that when you're caring for somebody you love and adore, you make a promise, you're like, wow, that was a big promise. I mean, and I didn't feel living in my parents' home that it was my home. My dad was in the Navy. I was raised around the world. My dad died when I was young. And so I was like, so I didn't have that sense of attachment. You know, if you're raised in your childhood home, you'd have a different attachment than an attachment that your parents settled in following my dad's death. So one of my sisters at this end of time, after I made this commitment, staying in this home, and I knew that a shift was coming. I knew that, in fact, for 2 years before this move, I knew there was a huge shift coming in my life. Could not have articulated. I didn't understand what it was. And I share that with you because a lot of people know that things are coming. We intuitively know it's something inside. We can't see it. We can't touch it. We can't smell it. We can't feel it, but it's coming. And I'm one of those people, if I know what it is, I can run to it. I can change it. I can prepare for it. This wasn't enough. I just felt it. So one of my siblings, following my parents' death, came to me and said, I'd really like to give my share of the family home to her son and his wife and their children. And I was absolutely on board for that. You know, I thought it through. I said, that is keeping the house in the family. They could raise their children there, which as growing up, that was Nanny's house and the kids loved to come there. And I thought that was really a good move. So, but this had to be done short term. I had a very short window. So it wasn't like I've got a lot of time. I had a second home. I didn't have any of those things. And so my husband was kind of looking around the country where we, you know, in the future, where do we want to go? And so I thought, I'm going to pull the Forbes top 20, 25 places to retire. We're not retired, but we thought that would be a good criteria. It's going to be a place that maybe has a good lifestyle, has maybe a university, has things going on. So I pulled 5 cities that I would consider, and none of them were a mile further north of where we were. I didn't want to go any further north. And of the cities, I just wrote them 5 on the list, and I handed the list to my husband. I said, I want you to look at these cities, and I want you only to look at foreclosures. He goes, why foreclosures? And I said, we don't have the luxury of time to know where this next move's going to go and where we want to be. And I said, if we buy a foreclosure, so this really, it sounds insane, but thinking it through, I said, a foreclosure affords us the opportunity to make a leap that we have to make anyway. And if we don't like where we land, we can always sell it. I said, if we buy a house at the top of the market, you're going to be reluctant to sell and maybe not make the move you should or could move. So he goes, actually, that's a really good idea. So I hand him the list. Within an hour, he comes upstairs. He said, I found the house. You've got to come see it. I'm like, oh, I'll look at it tomorrow. He says, no, you come see this house right now. So he made me come down. And it was this incredible adobe house that was just, and it wasn't beautiful. I mean, you could tell it had been empty for a long time. I said, I like the house. I do. So we're beginning to research, and it was coming up in an online auction in a week. So in a week,
your timeline met the timeline.
Yeah. So, but it was good. I had a week because I could kind of do some research. It wasn't like, oh, it's an auction in an hour, let's go buy the house. It was an opportunity to, number one, go look at the street address, do research. I found out about the actual builder was a famous artist and builder here in Las Cruces, but he had died in 2006. No, the house was built in 2006. He died in 2008 during the market crash, and was heavily leveraged because he was a builder, and the house, it was his personal home, and it went into foreclosure. So it's sat empty for a long time because that back of the house had a 2-story addition that was framed up, covered in wood, and never completed. So this is part of why it sat empty. But I was so intrigued. The builder, his name was Eddie Chavez, and he so spoke to me. He actually had lunch with D.H. Lawrence. I mean, anybody who had lunch with D.H. Lawrence is a pretty cool person. So I did as much research about him, looked at the house, and I found it was coming up for a week. So we did research, and we said, okay, you have to pay $3,000 to go in as honest money into the auction. Now, if you win the auction, you lose that $3,000. If you lose, you get your money back. But it's just to guarantee your spot in the auction.
So the $3,000 is not applied towards buying the house?
No, well, so you find it, and there were things we learned. So the auction came up. My husband and I discussed it. We looked at it. And I said, let's not tell anybody we're doing this because it does have the appearance of crazy. So we went into the auction. The auction starts. The house was originally for sale for around $760,000. The auction starts at $165,000. So we go in, and the bidding starts, and so you're just on the computer, and so somebody else bids, then you bid, and somebody else bids, and you could tell probably after a bit. And what happens is it goes in increments, and then all of a sudden we never quite understood this. It would go in bigger increments instead of $2,000 increments, and go in $5,000 increments, and you're like, what happened? So you think you know stuff, but you don't. So you could tell we were down to one other person, and when we tipped over the $200,000 mark, I said, when we made a commitment to each other, we're not going to chase it. Because sometimes if we get an auction or something, you're like, I want it, I'm going to chase it, and I'm going to spend. And we looked at each other and said, okay.
Did you feel, I'm sorry, did you feel suspicious that somebody else might not really be serious and then just rising up the price?
No, I feel like the person we're bidding against was determined to get the house.
Okay.
And I thought it was going to be a bidding war that would push it up to a number that, for all of the risks that I knew were inherent, which is never been to the city and all that, when you're gambling, what's your risk worth? And so I said, my husband looked at me and said, okay, we're not going to chase it. I think we'll back out now. So we did. And but it was so good because that meant we lost the auction. So we did lose. But it was really good because one is that I discovered something. Because sometimes you'll do something out, just pure impetuousness. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be disappointed. I thought it'd be relieved, like, oh, that was really dumb. I thought it'd be like, I'm so glad we're doing it. And I was disappointed. And that was really important to know that I really would move. I didn't know where I was going next. And the reason we even considered someplace else is our children are on the West Coast. My children are not on the East Coast. So moving closer was something that was resonating with me. Not that we couldn't have stayed in DC, but I really wanted to be closer to my children. So being halfway across the country seemed like a better move there in Portland, Oregon. But I was disappointed, and that surprised me. But I said, oh, I would move. So that was something I need to know. What was even funnier, right after we lost the bid, my husband stood up and he goes, in 2 weeks, you're going to get a call and get that house. And my husband, men are not into, he's just not into intuition. And I go, okay. So we go on with our lives. And 2 weeks to the day, we get a call from the auction house and said, the other person, and I found out later why they couldn't get the house. But they called and said the winner could not get the house. And would you be interested? And I said, let me discuss with my husband. I called him and we discussed. He said, okay, offer them less than our last bid. So I said, my husband said, we're interested. I said, but can we offer less than our bid? He said, you can make one offer. If it's not the right number, then it goes to the next person behind you. So in a split second, I had to make a guess. I go 190. He goes, we'll take it. I go, damn, I could have offered less. So.
Oh, wow. So how did you go back to your husband and ask him, like, how did you know this? Like, where did this come from?
He has no idea. It still buzz. We still talk about it all the time. Like, how in the world did he know that? He said he does not have any idea how he knew it. He just knew it. But this house was waiting for us. We look at how everything, one thing we've learned about any deals, and we've done a lot of deals. My husband was a former stockbroker. He's he's now in computer, runs his own business, but we've done deals. And, when you do a deal, that there's a point. But one thing we always learned early on is if you have to force a deal, it's probably not the deal for you. Have you ever noticed that the best things that were really intended for you fall into place? Like the right person, the right opportunity. There is a Chinese saying that luck is the wisdom to take advantage of an opportunity when it presents itself. So,
I think as I have gotten older, that has applied more because I was such a driven, ambitious person where I thought I could bend my will. So I could, if I just willed it enough, it would happen. And then I realized that I did will things that ended up being really bad things. So it's better to be patient, to accept the flow of things, and that will actually make things go faster and better for you. But I definitely have the personality, still do, and I have to remind myself, just step back, step away from it. Now, speaking of stepping back, so in that 2 weeks, you were looking at the houses, like you're believing in the statement, or
Yeah, we were exploring, other places and everything else. I don't recall anything that resonated with me. I was just provisioning to make a move, and I didn't know what it was going to be. But I trust a lot. What was really interesting, though, is all of the world sends us universal signals. We may not know it. But prior to that, about a year before, I had turned to my husband. I said, I am starving. And he's the one who cooks in our family. He goes, well, what do you want? I said, no, I'm starving for color. And he goes, I don't know what that is. I said, I have to paint again. And I actually studied art in college and had taught art before going into the path of technology and everything else. And so I had started painting again. And all of the colors I were painting in my paintings were the colors of New Mexico, which is orange and yellow and turquoise. And I look back at all my work, and my intuition, my instincts knew we were coming here. I did not know it. But what was even more interesting is that I create a vision board, which is, and the reason a vision board is powerful is I keep it near my computer, kind of just subtly out of line of sight. And I put things on there that I really want to see happen in my life. And for no fundamental reason. And I never in a million years, if you said I moved to New Mexico, I'd say, that's just not in there. I've been to Santa Fe and Albuquerque, but never been to southern New Mexico. But one of the things I had on my vision board during this 2-year tumultuous period was a stucco house. And after we won the auction, I said, I told my husband, I want to show you something. I pulled off the vision board and there was a stucco house. He goes, why didn't you say something? I said, what was the chance we'd ever move? I just thought you put it out there. So if you have something you want to do, put it on a vision board. The reason it's powerful is because it goes into your subliminal mindset so that you will act on something that presents itself as an opportunity for what it is you may be in your heart's desire. And we do that all the time. So
and it's actually a big, I don't talk about it. I don't tell people that aspect of it, but making your 365 first challenge list of all the things that you've never done to maximize your life and to explore and to grow and to learn. Once you put it on that list, it's there. And then your consciousness opens up to it. So when the opportunity to do that thing presents itself, and it can be like, that's why I love the little things. You've never had Thai food, so it's on your list. And now at lunch, you'll see a Thai restaurant and you might have walked right by it before, but now it's on your list. You're going to walk in to that restaurant and have your first Thai food. You know, it is creating, it's inviting the magic that life has to offer into, you know, your life, so that you can really start treasuring and seeing what life has to offer. And if you're just solely focused on making money or success or whatever, and there's no rhyme or reason behind it, that's all you're going to get as well, you know?
absolutely. And you know, there's so much more that's outside that narrow vision. And if you just let it just present it in a subtle way, you know, and this really, it's like, oh my gosh, it's one of those spiritual people. It's really about neuroscience if you think about it. You know, your mind is attuned. You know, we tell ourselves truths that may not be truths. And you can untell yourselves old stories and get rid of those chapters of your book that really aren't relevant anymore. And we do that. And I think about what we would have missed had we not done this way. It is living in New Mexico. I've got 10 people to move to the state because it is so magical. It's called the land of enchantment for good reason. It is culturally different. It is one of the smallest towns. It's a population of 100,000 people. And when universities in sessions, 125,000. So it's a small community, but there's incredible skies and mountains and desert. And you are accessible to like El Paso, big city. We're close to the Mexican border. It's really been amazing.
So let's back up then a little bit, because so you win the second bid option, and now where did you close the house? So now that you know the house is yours, is that so all that is done online? So the house, by the time you go, the house, you own it. The house is yours.
Right. We own a house. We now own a house, and then we had to tell our family.
Okay.
So nobody knew. I mean, nobody knew we did this because we knew it was crazy. I mean, we knew. And it's like, don't tell people we're doing this, because sometimes when you do something, sometimes there's times when you don't tell people, because people could have given us warnings about every reason why we shouldn't do it. And there are a million reasons why I shouldn't do it, wouldn't want to do it. But we really were in a situation we had to make a move. So why not make this big move? So then we would have the family dinner. We have family dinners and my sisters, and we sit down. Larry goes, my husband says, I've got something to tell you. We bought a house. And so everybody gets quiet in New Mexico. And he's like, you can just see the process. It's like,
you guys haven't gone to New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico. So that's kind of when we do it. So then we had to make a trip out here to see what we bought.
Okay.
So we had a trip planned to go to Portland to see our children. So we said, let's go there first, and then we'll go up to Portland. So we fly in. Now, I've never been to El Paso and lived in Texas for 20 years. Had never been to El Paso. So it's an entirely different, when you go like Dallas and Austin, it's green. It's just a whole different place. This is the desert. It's the high mountain desert. You're 4,000 feet above sea level. So it's dry. So we flew in and we saw this dry, arid mountains. We're like, maybe not sure. And then we drove from the airport here, and the western side of coming out of Texas is more of an industrial side. And I'm like, and we're not talking. My husband and I are in the car and we're not talking because we're like, you know, that's kind of like, I wonder how good this is going to work out. So we're driving through, and then we get through this industrial area, and we're like, it's not going uphill. It's not getting prettier. And as soon as we hit the state line of New Mexico, it changed. It's amazing. The state line is the same topography, but it's just different. It has a different feel to it. So, and we drove to the house, And my husband had shared with me the night, he'd not shared with me the night before that he couldn't sleep. So he watched HGTV, Flip or Flop. And in that episode, it was the one where they bought a house online. They didn't have a chance to go see it. And they walked into the house because they said, I think $10,000, we just, fix it up. Well, they had not posted pictures that the house had been trashed, that everything in the house, the cabinets, the bathrooms, everything was taken and thrown out in the backyard. So Larry couldn't even, he just was like, oh my God, what have we done? He was saying, and I was just, I just felt positive about that. This was the right move for us. So we drive up to the house, and it had been empty for 6 years. There were, weeds in the yard, all that kind of stuff, stucco house, but the interior was beautiful. It was dirty, but it needed to be cleaned, but cleaning, what doesn't need to be cleaned? So the house was the right house for us. I just knew at the moment we walked in that I could make this our home. And it's very different from other homes. The ceilings are like 12 feet high.
Oh, I love high ceilings.
They got wood ceilings in some of the rooms. It's just and it was an artist home, and you could see those details that are in the house. So it was just a really, really incredible move. What was in the back of the house, which is why it was in foreclosure, was, as I said, this 2-story framed building, and it was rotting in the decks. It's a lot of heat and everything else. There was a swimming pool downstairs, interior, and upstairs was a huge space that for whatever they were going to configure for office or whatever. So I had space to go in and redesign it. So we filled the swimming pool. I added 2 bedrooms, and I made it into a closed off suite so that my friends could come. I designed it so that my friends who were working on books, who wanted to have a retreat, that it could be an escape for people, that they would come and be able to do that. So I designed it specifically that way. So that's what I did. So I filled the pool. And upstairs, I created a large studio so I could do art, and we put our office up there in a small bathroom. And the reason the house, you could not get a loan on it, which I did not know, because I tried to get a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, just because it doesn't look like I own a house, because everything we do, we pay cash. And because the house, even though nobody's in it, nothing's being done, if you have a house framed up in the back, it's considered under construction, and they won't give you a loan based on under construction.
Oh.
So that's why whoever bought the house had to have the cash to come in and do it. And then we had to make the decision, tear it down or do it. So I hired an architect, because this house is unusual. It has the elements of Southwest, but it also has contemporary elements. So I hired a contemporary architect to help me thresh that through so that I could tell the story of the house in the right way.
Ah, that's so awesome. So how long have you been there now?
We've been here like 5 years. I know, it's flown. It's really been it's been a great move for us. And I wouldn't even know, I miss terribly in DC my friends, and some of the things you have access to. So you make a big trade-off, but it was certainly a good call at that point in our lives to make this move. It's been really good for us. It was a step back. It was slower. You know what the heady pace is in Washington, D.C. It's very demanding. And so it was a quality of life change, which has really enriched our lives in a big, big way.
That's amazing. That's incredible. And you've been fully back to your painting, which one of the painting behind you is one of yours.
And I'm actually curating art with a committee for the hospital here locally. A friend of mine's the CNO of the hospital. And I told her, because I used to go up and see her and stuff like that and have lunch. I said, you really need art here. And this is an artist community. There's incredible talent here in West Virginia. Amazing. I think it's an unknown destination for art, and to see the colors and the richness, and because there's multicultures. You've got an Indian culture, you've got a Mexican culture, you've got all kinds of cultures coming in and coming together, which really influences this beautiful feeling. And the architecture is just rich, and it's just moving. So we actually, just before the pandemic started, had just completed installing this incredible section of amazing art in the hospital, which I helped curate. And as soon as and it stopped, nobody could go in. It was this beautiful thing that happened in the hospital. People were coming to see it, and then no visitors were allowed. But I have heard from the staff that works in the hospital how absolutely powerful it's been to walk in and see this beautiful art hanging. And now we're working on a project of art in the age of the coronavirus, and during a pandemic, the art you create during that time and how it impacts you. So we're actually calling out artists to submit work here in southern New Mexico, related to a pandemic. So it's really a great way to connect with your community.
Man, and I'm not surprised at all, because you are the type of person that gets out there and makes a connection and networks and, gets involved and makes no matter what situation that you find yourself in, you're going to make the best of it. But
Well,
obviously,
the funniest thing we ever say is he always hears me on the phone talking to me, and goes, "I've got an idea," and he yells in the background, "Whoever you are, hang up now." But I think things through. And my girlfriend's the CNO of the hospital. She goes, "Oh my God, the things you've got me into." I talked her into doing something called Bras and Boots of the Borderland, where we painted art on boots and bras to raise money for charity. And the first year we raised $10,000. So yeah.
yay,
So,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So it's really creative and fun. But I have to tell you the one thing. So what's the one thing people say to us whenever we say we did this? Because people always ask you here how you came to be here, and they always stop and they go, "Wow, that's brave." That's the word they used to describe what we did. It was brave. I'm not sure I would have said brave, but I think that's really telling that that's how people see it.
Oh, I think it is like what we were saying before we started. I've bought a vehicle sight unseen, and I thought that was brave. But a house, I mean, that's escalating to a whole other level. But now that you've told the story, it does make perfect sense. And it was coming. Like you were prepared for this. But I am still very impressed that when you all did not win the auction, you felt the disappointment, but you didn't try to force it, and you still went with the flow, and that your husband had that declaration probably to help with absorbing the blow of not having won. But because once you do get excited about the possibility, but then when you do get it, then you get the buyer's remorse. When you don't get it, you get, you feel the regret and the disappointment. So it's such many different emotions that are involved with all of that, but such an incredible story and just very fitting of you. And but it's very fitting of anyone that wants to embrace that path of being open to possibilities and engaging with those possibilities.
And we did as much research, we studied, and we knew what the worst thing that was happening. The house wasn't for us. We knew that it was standing. We knew that we would be able to make a shift. We were prepared. What's the worst? The worst is, it's just not a place for us. And I would have torn down the back, fixed the house, and sold it, and not lost money. And that was where we wanted to be smart, was just not lose money. Because this was a leap, this wasn't a measured decision. We didn't have time just to move and then pick a city to go rent. We said, let's buy a house, and maybe it'll be our forever home, maybe not. So, and it was the right move. And we researched and we studied and we made phone calls and we talked to titles and, title companies and stuff like that to find out as much about Las Cruces as we could.
Yeah. So it was a very smart, calculated risk. And it
was calculated. It was risky, but it was calculated.
Yeah.
And we felt good about it.
Man, I love it. And because when I moved to Las Vegas, well, people thought that was a little crazy moving to Las Vegas, but it made perfect sense for the business. But I remember I was looking for places because places were coming off the market so quickly. So I was looking for places before coming, and there was no point because people were not making appointments unless you were in Las Vegas. And when I got here, same thing, places were turning around so quickly, and it becomes tempting to take something that's not right, because you start believing you might not find the right thing. And I looked at one place, funny enough, like that's in the same development, but it just didn't feel right. And then when I found this place, it was like, yeah, this is the one. And it turned out very easy to get this one versus the others that were just not for me and they're coming off the market. But it's easy to get discouraged because you don't get what you want, when in fact it's because what's better for you, awaits.
Exactly. And be willing to that. If it's not for you, it's not for you. What's for you is for you. And don't make something that's not for you, because then you create chaos and you create something you've got to go fix. and you don't want to be there. You want to have a little bit of, trust your gut and your instincts. It really will guide you. It's like I say, everything was telling us we were coming here. I didn't know it. I didn't necessarily see it, but trusting that opportunity when it presented itself and taking that leap was really the right thing for us to do. But we also were smart enough not to tell people. And it wasn't that I don't trust my friends. It's that people, when we move in and out of people's lives, when we make big shifts in our lives, that is unsettling because we are part of their story. And when you move away from somebody else's story, that means they have to make shifts. So it's not that people try to undermine or take away some big shift, but it's because it's very hard to move out of our comfort level. So we want to make sure that we're doing something so we do the right thing, and understanding that people who may sabotage us aren't doing it to be cruel, but because, you're part of their story. And it's unsettling when you do that.
Yeah, you're creating change into their life that
your change
is not ready for.
Yeah, absolutely. When you make a change, other people impacted by your change. So that is important to keep in mind. Impacted my family's change because, I had always been part of the story of our family in Virginia. And when I made this move, I moved outside of that story, and it wasn't that they don't want us to be happy. It's that it's like, wait, this is the story we understand. You're changing our story, our narrative, our current narrative. And that's unsettling for people.
Oh man, this was a great story, and there's so many great nuggets. So to those who watched, to those who are listening to this on the podcast now, go back and keep listening to this, and the nuggets are in it. And I know while it's a great reminder for me too, like I said, because I still have the habit of forcing things. So this is a timely interview, one, for us to reconnect, but two, to hear the message that is in that. And I think sometimes that you can be torn because two options might, you're indifferent. Either way would work out for you. And it seems like life is not making a decision. It's not directing you one way or the other. So, that can be another difficult phase in your life, but you have to sit still with it and wait for it to become
Think about
clearer.
every time in your life that you've made a decision. And sometimes we make decisions and that decision changes the rest of your life. The decision to move to DC for a short term to care for my parents and take over all my brother's responsibilities as company changed the course of my life. And I could have easily said, oh, Mom, this really sucks. I'm sorry. What are you going to do? And that would have changed my life again. So just remember, and the other thing, and I always tell this to my kids, I said, you will never hear your lesson until you're ready to hear it. So if you heard something today, if somebody watches this and says, that's really telling me, you'll learn the lesson when you're ready to hear it. And you could read a book today and go back and read it tomorrow, and there will be a whole new lesson. And be open and receptive. You'll hear what you're supposed to hear. You'll learn when you're supposed to. And maybe an opportunity is coming your way, and it may be a good time just to take that lead.
Yeah, that is, again, beautifully, beautifully said. And it's also why people say, age is a gift, because you do get to look back on your life, and it offers you so much perspective. And that's one thing, as you grow older, you appreciate that more, and you have more conversation with people who have lived their lives to get that understanding. And as a kid, you might not grasp what that means, but to be able to look at those decisions and where they led you, and the purpose and meaning that they had in your life, and the importance, and taking those other shifts, it's very rewarding to be able to do that, and to talk to other people who can offer that wisdom and give you that comfort that that decision that you're making, if your gut tells you it's the right one, take it and live it. And at some point in your life, you're going to look back on it, and you're going to fully understand its meaning and what it was for in your life. And that life has that beautiful meaning and magic around it.
That's what we do. And every day we say, my husband and I both talk about our gratitude for our life, this amazing journey we've had together, for where we ended up, for the gifts that the universe has given us. We have a granddaughter. Just every day we are so grateful for the smallest things, that we have food on our table, that we live in a place with a beautiful sky, that we have kind, caring people around us. That is such a blessing. And by being grateful for that, you attract more of that. So that's one of the key lessons too.
Yeah. All right. Well, and you're constantly giving back. I mean, that's that's the thing I definitely want to keep, highlighting. She always keeps giving back. And that's,
whether you want it or not, I give it.
And that's, we owe each other, we owe humanity, we owe, when you feel blessed, to return that blessing, to pass it on, to share it, so, because again, unfortunately, too many people are forgetting about that right now in and around the world, when it's a time where that's what should be elevated, is I am blessed, let me bless somebody else. I have this, let me share it with others. And let me treat everybody with a higher level of decency, because everyone's going through so much. And, where's our humanity? Let's.
It's there. Sometimes the world swings in a pendulum that swings to one very extreme point. But the gift in that is that it helps us to come back and recognize where we don't want to be, something so far out of the norm, we will be pulled back. And there will be people, there's discord now, but we will find a place that there's so many people today saying we need to bring back a place of calm, and we will get there. We will. It's hard. It's painful. I acknowledge that. It's very difficult, but we will come back. We will.
All right. Absolutely. All right. So now let's switch and let's play the first time a lightning round. So the way it works, I'm going to give you some first time options. If there are things you've done before, then you say up, or you've done it before. If you're on the app, you would swipe up. And if it's something you've never done, not interested, then it's left. And if something that you've never done, would like to do, then we go right. All right. First one, get a foot massage.
Yes.
Definitely done that. Play bingo.
Yes, I play bingo.
Do you remember your first time playing bingo?
It would either be when I was living in Japan on a military base, or when I was in a Catholic school.
So, speaking of believing and asking for what you want. So the first time I played like official bingo at a casino where there's, I don't know how people do this because they have so many different sheets. And I was there with my stepmom and my dad, and there was one number left for me to get bingo, and both of them said ask for it, like call it out and ask for it. And I had a resistance again. I'm like, no, that's just silly. If it comes out, it comes out. And they're like, ask for it. And I did not ask for it, and my number did not come out, and I did not get bingo. And yet I'm around them and they're constantly asking for things. And when they go gambling, like they believe they're going to win, and their mindset. And when I play games with my stepmom, she believes she plays Yahtzee. She calls out what she rolls, and she'll roll it. And it's always been a lesson of stop like resisting
that story. Ask for it, yell it out. I love it. All right. Yeah. I'm going to do that. The next time I really want something, I'm going to yell it out.
Yell it out. Ask for it. Okay. Ride in a gondola.
No, I've never ridden in a gondola. I would love to do that. But yeah.
Okay. We're adding that to the list. Ever been to Venice? You would.
No, I have not. I've been to Europe, but I haven't been to Italy.
Yeah, you would love that. Okay. Do basketry. It's actually kind of popular in New Mexico.
I have done basket weaving, I think maybe in college, so when I studied, so that would have been something we would have studied. Yeah.
Great. Go swing dancing.
Yeah, I've done swing dancing. Yes, I have. Yes.
Do you remember your first time?
Yeah, well, I do. I think I was in Texas. When we went swing dancing. Yeah, I think the first time we did it. Yeah.
Very nice.
But my husband always laughs, and because I took tap from Tommy Toon's sister in Fort Worth, Texas. And I told him one day I came home, I said, they've asked me to be in a show. He said, they've asked you to be in a show? I go, yes. He goes, and they've seen you dance? I go, yes. He goes, what's that going to cost me? I said, you're not going to the show. So.
Did he go? Did you?
He did. He snuck in. It was actually a stage performance in downtown, and he snuck in even though it was forbidden. And he said it was good.
Awesome. Okay. Eat crocodile.
No, and would not.
Would not. Or
I hear it
that's not,
tastes like chicken, but no.
yeah, I'm not very brave with food things either. Okay. Be hypnotized.
Yes, I have. I actually was hypnotized on a stage in Fort Worth, Texas, and I was hypnotized and sang a Madonna song on
Oh,
stage.
and you don't
Yeah,
remember it. Like, does somebody have
I do
video
kind
of it?
kind of like a dream kind of thing. It was very weird. It was very weird. And when I went up, the friend of ours owned this bar, and he said, you go up, you go up. And I went up there and I thought, well, I'm not going to get hypnotized. And I was like the top hypnotized person. I don't know what it says about me, but
Oh, well, it means you're open-minded. I would,
maybe.
well, we'll go with that one. It's a good one. Was it quick? Like I'm the same
It
way.
was
Like
an
I can't
hour. I mean,
imagine.
like I did a solo Madonna song. I mean, I don't sing. I mean, I'm alone, but no. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, just very weird.
Okay. Played disc golf.
No,
Never
I
done it.
think so.
So
Maybe
it's like
I could
it's a
have.
frisbee. It's the frisbee
I don't.
and
I may have on vacation. I'm not sure. I mean, I've done so much, but maybe like I kind of remember doing something like that up in the mountains somewhere. So could
okay.
possibly.
Could possibly have done it. Make homemade pasta, like pasta from scratch.
Not me. No,
That's a left.
I
I'm
don't.
not
I don't.
doing.
I cooked for when the kids were little and everything, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. Play the drums.
Yeah, I play drums. Yeah.
Play drums. All right. Awesome. Okay. Next question is the first time story prompt. So every day I release a new prompt for first time story. And today's prompt is your first time babysitting. So your first like babysitting job.
Well, the first time would probably always, I was the oldest of four. So I know, babysat my youngest brother who was a handful. So, and, my mother would pay us like without, with dessert or something. So, and then I think otherwise it would be when we lived in Oak Harbor, Washington. And because we're in a military base and there were a lot of military families and wives were always, husbands were always deployed and wives were going off, and I babysat somebody there. I remember that. They had a whole bunch of kids too.
Yeah.
So I remember that.
It can be quite challenging. Same thing for me with having three younger sisters. The babysitting, just kind of being the oldest girl, it started happening. But I remember my first babysitting job that was not my own siblings. I didn't really like it all that much because funny enough, my siblings listened to me more than the little girl that I was babysitting. And I think I was too used to my siblings. I didn't quite know how to handle that situation. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that
I feel like, probably as long as you handed them back alive and there was no blood or stitches, you probably were okay.
Yeah, it's much easier to have a gig when they're sleeping and all you have to do is make sure, if the house burns down, you take them out.
Absolutely.
All right, final question is, how have you been making the best of the current pandemic situation?
We're really lucky to live where we do. Our house is on an acre. And we have open miles of desert behind us. So that's good. I have the sense of not being like locked in an apartment. I feel like I've got lots of open sky. I can walk outside. We plan when we're going out. We really try to be smart about it. I feel safe here. But we are, we're eating healthy because I know I was watching everybody's like they've lost some weight. So that was good. So we're really trying to eat healthy. I'm reading. The one thing I'm trying to do every morning is I make sure and I meditate every morning, and I meditate with a focus on gratitude. And then I'm reading. I make sure, there's so much, we don't read as much. So I'm making sure every morning I read at least one chapter of a book before I start my day. So those are two things. And the reason reading is so important, it really helps us cognitively begin to access creativity in our mind, to think through things or have new ideas that we haven't had before.
That's fabulous. That's wonderful. And your husband's been working from home, or
Yeah, he
yeah.
works in, well, we've been doing a lot of projects. He really wants to go back. He goes back to DC every 6 weeks and he keeps begging, can I go back? I don't know. Because we're doing big projects like, let's clean the garage. Oh, we haven't done this room. Let's take everything out and clean it. He's like, this really sucks. Let's go down and cut down those trees, So, but he's been a pretty good sport
He's
about it.
ready to make a break for it for a little bit.
Yeah, but he manages the networks for medical practices, so he's managed
Oh,
to do that remotely, and it's worked out fine.
yeah.
But he really, I think he just likes his break from me sometimes.
It's fair enough, right?
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. When you have great ideas all the time, it's exhausting.
Well, that's what happens when the creativity is flowing. It's like,
That's right. Right.
all right, Cynthia, it's been just such a pleasure to have you on and to catch up and to have your words of wisdom and inspiration provided to so many this morning.
Well, I love what you're doing. I thank you so much for including me, and I hope we get this conversation restarted and continue talking, because I've always adored you and admired you and just love to see what you're doing. You're doing some great stuff, and I'm really impressed.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I definitely want to keep this reconnection going, and you're not too far. I need to look
Yeah.
exactly, but I don't think you're too far from me.
A day's
So
drive, maybe a day and a half.
yeah,
No.
that's easy peasy. So,
Right.
I'd have to bring little man though. So how do you feel about
That's
little dogs?
fun. Oh, love dogs. Love dogs. We used to
Perfect.
have. Yeah, we actually had two, and we just put our last one down, and we said, well, we're not going to have dogs so we can travel. And then we have a pandemic. So, the universe is a way of laughing at you.
Yes, but it's temporary. A sense of normalcy will come back.
It will.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, honey. Thank you so much.